Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Saturday, and I hope your weekend's great. I hope everything's going cool. But I wanted to take a couple minutes to just talk about artificial intelligence. What the heck does it mean? What are we all yelling about, and why do we care? Well, AI in general is a sort of a divisive topic for a lot of reasons. Um, but let me give you a little bit of background of who I am and why it matters to me and why I believe most people are getting it wrong, and sort of who I am and what I do for a living kind of matters in this case. So I am. A lot of people know me from posts online about science fiction books, or about different TTRPGs, or just different things I talk about. But at the end of the day, I do have a PhD in experimental physics. I've spent more than 20 years in different industries, working with different things. And physicists have been using artificial intelligence, what is now kind of referred to as artificial intelligence, forever. Now, there's always a philosophical argument about, yeah, but it's not true AI. Well, what is true AI? It's a thing that can speak like a person, act like a person, and you can't distinguish one from the other. So no AI that's out there is true AI, and bring that argument at me. I dare you. I don't care. What I'm talking about is artificial intelligence that's coming after people's jobs. And it's been happening for a long time. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And this is the philosophical argument we get into, because one of the things people come back at me with is, oh, it's coming for jobs, but who cares? Because there was the Industrial Revolution and that happened, and all these other things occurred, and blah blah blah. I get it, and that's a fine argument, and that's great. Is that a realistic one? Because AI is coming for jobs too, and those same people will tell you, it was like, well, great, but we're going to replace the jobs that are lost with other jobs. Maybe. But what tends to happen in these cases is, for every 10, 15, 20 jobs lost, you create one. Well, what do you do with the other 9, 14, or 19 people? Kind of an interesting question. And I'm not just talking about AI. I'm not talking about large language models. I'm not talking about art generating stuff specifically, but we'll get to that. I'm talking about AI in general. And more importantly, automation that is now coming so much cheaper, so fast, that we just don't see some things coming. Now, what am I talking about with this stuff, right? Who cares, right? We only care about the generative AI and how it steals from people. Well, we'll get to that. And we'll get to that in due course. Don't worry. Um, I'm talking about a much larger issue than this, because one of the things that is coming down the pipeline, um, is the overall, whether it's by attrition or otherwise, replacement of jobs due to automation of things that look like AI or sort of behave like it. So let's look at McDonald's, right? And this is not a new thing. McDonald's has been replacing workers with bots for a while. There's actually one within driving distance of where I live. You notice no person handing out that bag, no person handing out that bag. I think they have two people that work at this place. And basically, they're just making sure that product is stocked back in the robots. They've even got little people there's a sushi place by me that has these little robots that wander around and give you drinks on. So this is a replacement of jobs wholesale by attrition, basically. It's like, oh, we don't need to see people quit. We don't need to hire new ones. Okay, job lost. Who cares? No big deal. Move on. Um, but overall in the economy, that gets worse and worse and worse. So yeah, that's not necessarily an AI replaced job, but it's because this type of automation has gotten so much cheaper in parallel to AI, that this is another thing that's coming down the pipeline, and people are just missing it. Automated legal AI assistant. There are now more than one company out there working with AI legal assistants that will help you figure out the best way to handle your case. They can do research, drafting, document review, legal analytics, patent applications, and client inquiries. Now, are they perfect as a lawyer? No. Is it a replacement for a lawyer? Absolutely not. However, it can reduce the amount of time it takes a lawyer to work on your case. So one lawyer can handle more people at a lower rate, or at the same rate. Hey, I charge $150 an hour, whatever the number is. Some lawyers charge $300 an hour. And it's going to take me 10 hours to work in your case. Well, now it's only going to take me 6. So it costs you less. They can handle more clients, fewer lawyers are needed. Walk on down that line, right? Um, is it truly AI? No, it's not. Does it replace paralegals and research assistants and everything else? Absolutely. Um, can we argue whether or not it's truly automate artificial intelligence? You can. Who cares? It's coming. Now, if you throw together, this sort of stuff along with other things, now let's go over to the large language models. Large language models are really coming into play in a lot of ways, and not just in the generative AI side. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm going to go prompt ChatGPT to write a book for me. We'll get to that in a second. If you look at Google searches, like, show me how many people make a living with SEO, see what happens. So it's starting to come up with little tables at the top here. It's starting to come up with other little answers. Let me see if I can find a better one. How many professionals work in SEO industry? So if you look, there we go. See, it's an AI overview of a search result. This kind of stuff has the potential to put people who make their living using SEOs completely out of work, right? And there's roughly, I looked that up the other day, like a million or so people that make their living here. So 287,000 professionals. I think that's limited to the United States. Globally, it's more than that. I think it's like a million. But so now, is it perfect? No. Would I trust it to put my name on a document swearing that's true? No. But it speeds the crap out of my research. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it lying to me? I don't know. But I don't trust too many websites either. So you always trust but verify, right? So let's take this. Now, let's go look at like ChatGPT and the arguments over this thing. So like ChatGPT, let's just say Grok. That's a little easier one. Let's say Grok because everybody's on Twitter anyway. So if you follow me, that's probably where you're seeing me. So let's take a look at Grok. Grok AI. So ask me anything. I don't know. How many books did Tom Clancy? What made Tom Clancy such a good, a high-selling author? Well, let's ask it something that's kind of like, hey, I'd actually kind of like to know the answer to that. Okay, it's coming up with it, right? So it's going off doing this kind of stuff. Now, you can say, oh, I can prompt it to write a book. I can prompt it to do all kinds of things, but maybe it's lying to me in here. Okay, maybe it's not telling me the truth. Okay, got it. I've worked in industry for more than 20 years. You know how many times I've looked at something written for me by an intern, first year, grad student, and said, is this accurate or not, or do I have to check it? All the time. Do I absolutely trust this? Hell no. But would I go through and say, is that a good first draft? I would actually look at that and say, maybe it has some good points. Would I actually revert and take this work and send it out as my own? Absolutely not, right? But it might give me a direction of things to think about. So these large language models, you know, can they write a book? Sure. As somebody who's written 7 novels myself, would I use it? Well, no, but I might use it to check my grammar. Hey, here's my book, check my grammar. Boom, right? And it does a thing that now I don't need an editor to go do because it's pretty good at that sort of technical sort of stuff. So we take a large language model, I do the work, throw it at it. I remove the need for an editor who I'm no longer going to have to pay because I've got ChatGPT, right? So when people argue over these things, and I see it all the time, it's like, well, AI can't do this, AI can't do that, it shouldn't do this, it shouldn't do that. I agree with you, but everybody's looking at it wrong. You're trying to get into a moral philosophical thing, and what's coming back to bite everybody in the butt is not this should they shouldn't they sort of thing. This is more of a it's coming for you, it's coming for everyone. And you may not lose your job directly to artificial intelligence, but you may lose your job to somebody who knows how to use the stuff because it's not going to operate on its own. It's going to operate with supervision. But thanks to those large language models, I can now do the job of multiple people. One day I asked one of them to write some Python code for me, and it wrote 280 lines or something of Python code that worked perfectly. Now, to do that, I had to very specifically tell it exactly what I wanted that code to do. Now, does everybody have that skill? Absolutely not. I've worked in software development. Even people wanting custom software do not have the skills to write an actual text specification on it. Not even close. But now that I wrote the tech spec, which is one job, normally you have a system engineer who writes the spec, a software engineer who does the work. The system engineer writes the spec, feeds it to ChatGPT. I don't need as many software engineers as I used to need, right? So these sorts of things are going to start to take over more and more industries, not from the perspective of can it work all by itself, but from the perspective of as one person, I can now do the job of multiple people, and I don't need as many people on that particular job. Now, artwork. I see a lot of criticism of you know, AI generated artwork, and forget the it's stealing from people thing for a second, and I will address that. So please don't think I'm ignoring it, and don't show up in my comments going, yeah, but it steals. I We'll get to that. Now I need an image of a how about this? I need a pencil drawing of a dragon breathing lightning. Okay, so now it's going to come up with four options of this sort of stuff. Now, there's a lot of times people will pick on it and be like, yeah, but it doesn't do this right. It doesn't do that right. I got news for you. 99% of the people on the planet can't draw this well. Okay. 99% of the people on the planet can't produce artwork this good. So when you go after AI and say, well, it doesn't get eyeballs right, or it has too many fingers, it has too many that, dare you to do better. Okay. Some people can, some people can't. Some people can produce good stuff, some people can't produce good art. I am in awe of people who can. I am not one of them. However, I have with while writing, multiple books, I have paid cover artists an enormous amount of money in some cases. I think the most expensive one was $1,000 to go off and produce cover art for me. Glad to do it. You know why it cost $1,000? Because I asked for something, it wasn't quite right. They produced it. We had to go through 9 iterations. Now, can I use something like this to say, hey, legitimate artist, here's kind of what I'm looking for, but not quite, right? So I kind of want it like this. This is close. This other one's closer. Can you help me kind of produce what it is I want? That reduces the time for that legitimate artist to go off and produce something that's actually usable by me. It's not a replacement, it's a tool. But what it does is it allows one artist to service more customers. You need to have a need for fewer artists. So both sides of this argument in AI, I feel, are just flat out getting it wrong because it is not what people are making it out to be. It also isn't quite far off from it's different, right? It's a tool. It's not a human, and it's not perfect, but neither are people. Now, my particular work in artificial intelligence is in a field called predictive analytics. You want to know what that is? Google it. It's basically, can you take a messy data set and figure out where it's going to go in the future? Stock market analysts do this. What's going to be the best? Hey, you watch this on Netflix, maybe you'd like these, that kind of stuff. Hey, you bought this on Amazon, maybe that's the kind of stuff I work with. I don't work on it for those companies. I work on it for a much different task. And if you know who I am and you want to Google it, you'll find my company, One for All Social. It's o4a.com. And there's a predictive analytic on there. Happy to use it. I came up with it. So if you like its results, great. If you don't like its results, I can tell you it's pretty good at what it does. So and I'd be happy to use the math for that anyway. Um, there you go. See, soldier of God. I don't know where you use that for, but in the army. Okay, I was actually in the army, so thank you for your service. I was in the army before college, and I hope you'll laugh at this one. I was enlisted before college, and I later worked at a place at MIT called the Institute for Soldier and Nanotechnologies as a PhD. Right, so you'd be surprised at what happens when a former captain who had you when you were an enlisted soldier walks in wearing colonel's colonel chickens and looks at you and goes, I remember you. I'm like, yep, remember you too, Dick, sit down. It was kind of funny. Um, it was a lot of fun. But I used to design when I worked at the Institute up at MIT. We worked on all kinds of projects. Mostly my work was either in traumatic brain injury or other types of protective systems, including sensors for smuggled devices. Let's just leave it at that. Involved neutron detection. But it yeah, I do have good memories actually. But it's a whole lot of interesting work going on at the MIT. But things like these AI things that are now coming to market have been out there for a very long time in the lab. So they're just now seeing actual application. So I hope everybody kind of understands where I'm coming from, that this is not, you're looking at it wrong. You're not looking at it correctly. It's like, oh, it's stealing, therefore it's bad. Artists went to art school. Writers went to school to learn to write, typically. Yeah, I went to school to learn to be a scientist. Just because I run something based on an experiment somebody else did, does that mean I'm stealing from them, or does that mean I've learned from them and I've gone and done something else? AI is a little bit different case, and I'm not saying anybody, any writer, anybody should use an AI generated image for the cover of a book. I wouldn't do it in a million years, but could you take two or three of them that you have now generated and kind of go look at a legitimate artist and say, hey, look, I want something between these three, and have it be a tool to speed that artist time up, speed your time up, and reduce overall cost for everybody. That's what this stuff is going to do. It's going to reduce overall cost to produce a product, and it's going to level the playing field between gargantuan companies that used to be able to afford all this stuff and everybody else. So don't complain about it. Learn to use the tools, and you'll be a lot happier. I hope everybody has a great day. Soldier God, thanks for dropping in with comments. We'll talk to everybody soon on whatever channel you happen to see me. Have a good one.